Trump ramping up his search for the next Supreme Court justice. The president meeting with 4 potential nominees from his short list, and more interviews are on the way. Griff Jenkins is live for us in Washington, D.C. with a closer look at the judges. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, Heather. The list started with 25, but here are the first 4 potential nominees the president met with yesterday. Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, Raymond Kethledge, and Amol Thapar. All 4 are appeals court judges. 2 of the 4, Kavanaugh and Kethledge, clerked for retiring Justice Kennedy, and they range in age from 46 to 53. But they aren't the only candidates the president plans to meet with this week.
Very interesting, though, was my 4 meetings. I'll be meeting with 2 or 3 more, and we'll make a decision on the United States Supreme Court, the new justice. That'll be made over the next few days.
Meanwhile, as Democrats warn the president is searching for a nominee that will ultimately overturn Roe v. Wade, the focus turns to 2 pro-choice Republican senators, Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, who could defect on an issue with a razor-thin majority where Republicans can only afford to lose 1 vote, with Collins making her opposition on the abortion issue public. But the White House says the president is not focused on any one stance.
As the president said last week, he's not going to talk to judges about specific cases. He's looking for individuals that have the right intellect, the right temperament, and that will uphold the Constitution.
Complicating the math, ailing Senator John McCain has not been voting, which means this could come down to 3 crossover Democrats who voted for Gorsuch last go-around: Joe Manchin, Heidi Heitkamp, and Joe Donnelly. We'll find out. Heather, we are on such a tight timeline with a pick on Monday and a confirmation in the fall. This is going to move at light speed.
Yes, it is. You know, when the president says he's going to get it done, he gets it done. So we will see what happens. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Well, now this Fox News. Well, President Trump narrowing the field of candidates for the next Supreme Court justice. The president reportedly interviewing 4 candidates as his July 9th announcement closes in. So who are these potential nominees, and do any of them stand a chance to make it through to the High Court? Here to break them down for us is the Chief Counsel and Policy Director at the Judicial Crisis Network, Carrie Severino. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it, Carrie.
Great to be here.
So big news that these 4 candidates got a face-to-face with the president. Can you break down exactly who they are for us and what you think their chances are? Let's begin with Amy Coney Barrett. What you know about her. She's 46 years old. We can begin there.
Yep. She is an award-winning professor at Notre Dame, repeatedly won the Professor of the Year award. She's a leading scholar of originalism. So that's very important. That means she's going to interpret the Constitution as it's written, as it was passed. And she accomplished all of this amazingly while being mom to 7 kids, 2 of them adopted from Haiti, 1 with special needs. She was a clerk to Justice Scalia, one of his favorite clerks, I've heard. So really would be an inspiring addition to the court.
And she's had some issues, though, already. Everyone's been talking about abortion and that type of issue, specifically with her in relation to her religion.
That's right. Unfortunately, I worry that we might see a redux of the really shameful anti-Catholic, potentially unconstitutional religious test that Senator Feinstein and others seem to be putting on during her confirmation hearing. So I think she's weathered that once, though, and I think a lot of people had some pushback against that, because that's really not our values as a country to base someone's job on their religion. I think that's totally inappropriate, and I hope that we see, if she is nominated, they realize that should be out of line.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that continues. Let's talk about Brett Kavanaugh. He's 53 years old, Court of Appeals for D.C.
Yes, and he is a Kennedy clerk, actually clerked the same term as Justice Gorsuch, so it would be fun to see them colleagues again. He's on the D.C. Circuit. That's really considered kind of the minor leagues for the Supreme Court. It's one of the most important appellate courts in the nation. They deal with a lot of administrative law issues and really major constitutional questions, so he has had the chance in his decade on the court to weigh in on a lot of those. Very thoughtful, one of the most highly respected judges in the nation, really, and has thought deeply about how the Constitution works and fits together, and written so many opinions that the Supreme Court later has then adopted his reasoning. So he would be a great addition to then join them.
Yeah, interesting that he has served as a lawyer for Kenneth Starr's investigation into Bill Clinton as well.
That's right.
Let's move on to Raymond Kethledge, 51 years old, 6th Circuit Court of Appeals.
That's right. And he's had about a decade on that court, also clerked for Justice Kennedy. So, again, we could start seeing people who really are following their boss in this job. He has written so articulately on a whole host of issues in this time on the bench, on First Amendment, on the Second Amendment, on how to interpret statutes. And we know that is a key thing, knowing that someone's going to interpret a statute as it's written, not try to bring their policy judgments in. I like that he writes in many ways like Justice Gorsuch, where he starts his opinion and tries to break it down for the lay reader. So he gets into the nitty-gritty and the legal stuff later, but he wants to make sure this is something that's accessible to the American people, and I think that's a great goal.
We like that. So do you like Amal Tapar, the last one that had a meeting with him, 49 years old?
Yes. Yeah, no, he is great. He was the first Article III federal judge in history who was of South Asian descent, and he actually has met with the president in this way before. He was one of the final contenders for Justice Gorsuch's spot. He was on the list then when he was only a district court judge, which is really unusual, and I think it would be interesting to see what he would bring to the Supreme Court as someone with experience at a trial court. Most of these judges have had just appellate experience, and including the justices in the Supreme Court. I think it's interesting to have someone who's seen the process all the way through, and I think he would bring a lot of that kind of experience.
Well, we know that the president has met with these four. They got about a 45-minute face-to-face. We'll see if he meets with anyone else before July 9th, the big day. Carrie, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Great insight.
Great to be here.
Thanks.